kidney, and we'll start here on the gross anatomy of the kidney. So we can see this is the whole kidney here, but with this particular model, what they've done is they've cut into the kidney to expose some deeper structures, okay? So if you guys remember, the kidney is actually encased in a renal capsule, which we can't see on the model, but the renal capsule will be all out here, surrounding the outside of the kidney. It's this like fibrous tissue that really kind of encases the kidney, okay? Now, the outermost layer of the kidney is called the renal cortex, which is all of this. Remember, cortex means bark. So think about like the outermost layer, like the bark of the kidney. That's the renal cortex, okay? The next layer deep to that is the medulla, which means marrow. That's just a little deeper here. So all of this is the medulla, just this deeper layer, okay? Now, within the medulla, what we'll have are some renal pyramids. So each one of these is a renal pyramid. And they even kind of look like pyramids. Well, you know, to an extent. All right, so these are renal pyramids here. Now, the very end of the renal pyramid here is the renal papilla. So each one of these is a renal papilla, just the little tips of these pyramids. Okay, so renal papilla. And something else we have, between the pyramids, we have something called renal columns, and these renal columns are almost like extensions of cortex diving down deep into the medulla. So this is a renal column between the two pyramids. This is also another renal column over here between the two pyramids. Okay, so these are renal columns between the pyramids. Now remember though that at the renal papilla, that's where urine's going to kind of drip out of the collecting ducts. Okay, and where it drips out, or it's going to empty into a space here called the minor calyces. So this is a minor calyx. That's a minor calyx, and this is where urine's going to drip out of that renal papilla and fill in the space. Okay, so this is a minor calyx, that's a minor calyx. Now, when these minor calyces come together, they're going to form major calyces. So there's a major calyx, where the minor and minor calyx come together to form a major calyx. Okay. Now, when the major calyces come together, that forms the renal pelvis, which is all of this kind of large structure out here. Where all the major calyces come together. That's the renal pelvis. And it's the renal pelvis that leaves the kidney via something called the renal hylus, and that's going to go into the ureter. Okay? Now, the renal hylus is this area right here where all these structures enter and exit the kidney. Just like we had a hilum or hylus on the lung, there's also a hylus on the kidney where the renal artery, renal vein, and ureter like go into and out of the kidney. Okay? So let's move on then to blood supply in the kidney. So we talked earlier about how the kidney gets its arterial supply from a renal artery, which is this. It's shown in red to indicate a renal artery. Okay. Now the renal artery is going to branch out into the segmental artery, which isn't on your list, but eventually the segmental artery will branch out into the interlobar arteries, which are these two. Okay. And the interlobar arteries will continue up the renal column until they get to an arcuate artery, which is this one right here. So here's an arcuate artery, okay?